Okay, so today we will be covering three topics, basic topics of why we need to learn OpenShift, because you might be hearing common technical jargons like digital transformation, cloud native, and nowadays people are talking about Gen AI and how OpenShift adds value to Gen AI technologies or analytics technologies nowadays, right? So that's the core focus of today's topic. Like probably you might have been using Chat GPT or any, in fact, any OpenAI tools, right? That's all at the back of those technologies. You have containers running. Okay, so again, there are different ways of running containers. We'll talk about what are the different ways, and how they differ, and what is a tool that you need to pick in productions. Like there are a lot of options as an open source, right? So why OpenShift plays a major role, and then we talk about OpenShift architecture and its benefits, and then finally we'll wrap up with the certifications and then course content, right? So that you will have a quick idea of what to choose and how to start your learning path for OpenShift, right? Now, Now, probably you might have heard about digital transformation, right? So, I think you might be knowing this word, but probably I've seen few students asking what digital transformation is, and they think that that is a particular software that it that you can create the digital transformation. So, digital transformation is like, it's not a software. I would rather call it as a process, and that process involves multiple technologies. That is your open technologies, open processes, and finally the most important part is the culture. Okay, so previously, maybe down the lane, I would say pre-COVID, right? People or organizations still run on legacy platforms. Most of the platforms runs on legacy platforms, like your legacy VMs, legacy clustering, clustered applications. But due to this COVID, the organizations has identified the gaps, and then they started exploring how they can speed up their application deployment. Because you might have seen in any country, including India or any countries, they have built a quick government has built a quick apps that's only possible because of Kubernetes platform. So that is the main reason why you need to embark into the containers journey. Okay, that's the one thing, right? Now, even I still remember when I started my career in maybe like 2005 or 6, that time VMware was in boom. Not even 2005, I think 2009 or 10, the VMware came into the market. And that was the latest trend. Prior to that, we were working only on physical machines. Now, when we learned virtualization, that technology lasted for almost like 2 decades, right? And then now the companies are moving towards OpenShift, which is the latest technology. And if you learn this, this is where you can embark your journey for next 2 decades, right? So that's how, guys, you can mute yourself. So, okay, yeah. So that's how is necessary for you to learn container technology. That's important. Again, there are various ways, various technologies in containers also. So you need to make sure you pick the right tool, right, for Kubernetes, right? Second thing, down the lane in another maybe 1 to 2 years, all your virtualization or VMs will move to containers. So there is no concept of you know VMs anymore, right? The reason why I'm telling is OpenShift. On OpenShift, you can create virtual machines. Okay, on the latest version of OpenShift, we can also create virtual machines which runs on top of containers as well. So ideally, OpenShift can run your containers and virtual machines. The second reason that you need to learn uh, Kubernetes or OpenShift at this moment is because of, you might be knowing that VMware has been acquired by Broadcom, right? They have some lot of discussions going around how to reduce the costing and how to move out of VMware also. That's one of the biggest challenge. right? So this is the right time for you to learn these technologies, because most of the major organizations are moving towards containers, especially on OpenShift. I'll tell you why OpenShift later, right? So that's the thing that you need to focus, so that you will be aware of the latest market trends, and then you can quickly adapt the technology changes, right? That's the key takeaway of your this session today, right? So, and then the next thing is, you know people are talking about cloud native applications, right? So what is cloud native application? So you might be aware, you guys might be working on different applications, right? So, and where, you know if you want to scale up or scale down your application based on the load on the application, right? It's not that easy on a legacy platforms. Like if you're running a web server on a virtual machine or a cloud instance, and let's say if you have high usage on the machines, right, then it is difficult for you to scale up the environment, right? So that's where you can, uh, you know that's the problem with the legacy environments. So from there, the cloud native approach has come into picture. There, the key pillars for cloud native are containers, DevOps, and APIs. So the why we need to use containers is containers are portable in nature. So I can give you a simple example, like if you have a VM, right, on an on-prem, which is running your production application, and the company has decided to move to cloud to save the cost of your power consumption, maintenance, and all those stuff. They want to migrate it to cloud. But when you want to migrate to cloud, right, it's not a single click of a button where you can migrate that VM to cloud. So you need to do a lot of stuff like converting the VM, or if not, you have to take the backup, then create a VM there, and then restore the VM there, or restore the data on the cloud side, which is not an easy task, right? And production, you don't need you will not get the downtime or the luxury of time to migrate the VMs as well, right? Not only to cloud as well. Let's say even if you're trying to do a tech refresh or migrate to a different data center, right? It's not that easy to do that, right? So these are all the challenges for your legacy and applications. Similarly, if you wanted to scale up and scale down elastically, the workloads, right, which is not possible in virtual machines. So these are all challenges which companies have thought of, should overcome. So that's where the cloud native has come into picture, where it supports DevOps architecture. DevOps is like automation on top of containers. Like in a simple way, it automates your it reduces the gap between the developer and operations team to speed up the application deployment, right? So, and then of course all the communication, when you're talking container terminology, the communication between containers happens between APIs. So this is a high level overview of what you can do with containers or OpenShift. That is your build your cloud native application. So that's the reason, and this is the current trend people are trying to adopt now. Not only people, even the companies are adopting. So if you learn these technologies, definitely this will add a lot of weightage to your career, and which is easy for you to manage, right? And then
Praveen, I have one question here.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
comparison to OpenShift and Kubernetes. I
hmm,
think almost 90 to 95% same, right? We are doing the in the containers while doing the
no,
application
true,
perspective point of view, and
true,
it's
true,
going to the end creating containers, and on the top of pods, it's coming from the end, and production and development and deployments also is going on without taking the downtime in production environment
true,
deployments
true.
and Kubernetes.
Yeah.
What is the difference between coming from the in OpenShift and Kubernetes? Kubernetes is coming in purely in there is no GUI, and it's coming from the in OpenShift we have GUI, and apart from this, some few more advantages.
True, true. I
And
have few slides which I will explain you clearly why OpenShift is different from other Kubernetes. I'll tell you.
and and one more thing, it's
Hmm,
in market orientation point of view, so many organizations and people are going to the in
hmm. Yeah, yeah,
open source,
yeah,
open source. who
True,
is going to choosing from the in OpenShift? Why
yeah,
means nowadays everyone is going to the in open source means it's coming from the in Kubernetes containers, each and everything. Help so many things is coming from the in outside in open source.
true,
How it's going to advantage to take the training for us?
true, true. I'll cover that. I'll cover that. I have few slides which I will talk about why how you can choose a better Kubernetes platform. What are the reasons why how you do pick up and how it adds value to your career. I will explain that
Sure,
in
sure.
the coming slide. In the coming slide. Yeah. Okay. So, right, that is cloud native. So this is the core advantage of why we need to choose Kubernetes. Rather, I would tell them, let's not talk about OpenShift now. Let's talk about Kubernetes. Why we have to learn Kubernetes. So Kubernetes, the reason is it helps you to, uh, you know, helps you to build cloud native applications where you can easily scale up, scale down applications, and it is easy to deploy the same application anywhere. Okay, that's the advantage of Kubernetes, right? Now, now again, as I told you, right, the container transformation, right? So every technology will have transformation, including your virtual machines. Also, it was not easy. At that time, it was all physical machines. Then we moved into a
निकालो निकालो
we moved into a virtual machines. Now even containers also has a transformation journey. So for applications, previously we were using monolithic application. When I say monolithic, all the application code will reside in one server. Then we moved into entire, that is server application will be front end application will be on one server, backend will be on one server, and database will be on other server. So that's an entire architecture. Then now we are moving into a microservices. We not moved, we already moved into a microservices based architecture. So what is microservices? They split, let's say you have a huge application, right? So they will split your application into chunks of codes, and that chunks of code will be run on a specific set of containers, so that the reason is you can easily scale up and scale down the your applications. So as an example, I can give you a simple example like your Amazon, right? So you have Amazon, right? So but if you type, if you use your application, launch your Amazon website either through mobile or your laptop, right? So you will see only one application, but at the back end, it runs multiple services like your deal of the day, your credit card details, or your shopping cart, or your payment gateway services. Every component runs independently, and then all these things are clubbed together to form a huge e-commerce application. So that is how microservices will work. So microservices will help you to easily troubleshoot because we have a small chunk of code, easy to scale up, easy to scale down, easy to do upgrades, downgrades, or whatever you want on those services. That's the advantage of microservices. Similarly, from an infrastructure perspective, previously we used to you have only on-prem data centers or in-house data centers in the companies. Then we move into a hosted environments where someone will host the data center space, and we will rent the data center space and we deploy our servers in the hosted environment. Then now we are using a hybrid platform, especially after the COVID, people are using a hybrid platform where some workloads run on on-prem, some workloads will run on AWS, Azure, or even in case of Google as well. So that is how the hybrid platform. And similarly, for process, right? Process wise, we used to have waterfall model. Again, I don't want to go in depth of these models because it might take a lot of time for me to explain. But there are different ways. So waterfall model is one of the most tedious process where you need to do it in step-by-step process. From there, we moved into agile, where you can run your agile scrums or whatever it is, in chunks of in bits and pieces. And then from there, we move into a DevOps. It's an infinity loop where you can continuously integrate and continuously deploy and deliver the application using DevOps. So if you look at this, right, the application type, infrastructure type, and the processes, everything has changed, and everything is elastic in nature. If you observe, I can speed up my DevOps. I can increase and decrease my workloads because you are in hybrid cloud. and then I can increase and decrease my containers or microservices based on their load, right? So that's the flexibility and agility that you get when you use containers. But when you use virtual machines, you cannot expect this to run across multiple platforms, because your on-prem VM, you cannot copy it in cloud because there is a compatibility issues. You cannot extend the application to cloud. So these are all the challenges that companies have overcome using this container technology, right? So this is how we have evolved from a legacy environment to the modernized platform. Now, now the next thing is, you know, now so far we understood what is containers and how it works and how what advantages it adds value to a business. Now coming part to this Babu's question, right? Why I need to choose OpenShift? Because I have a lot of Kubernetes. Like I have open source Kubernetes, I have managed Kubernetes like CKA, EKS, GKS, and then I have Kubernetes, sorry, a Rancher from SUSE. I have OpenShift from Red Hat. There are a lot of Apache Mesos. There are a lot of open source ones. But what? How do you pick the right, you know, what do you call it, container platform? So the only logic here is your platform should be trusted. Whenever you choose any Kubernetes platform, it should be trusted, which will reduce the risk, right? Reduce risk in terms of vulnerabilities, fixes, whatever you call it, right? Second thing is it should be comprehensive, right? That should add value to the a team or the organization by improving their productivity. That's very, very important, right? Third thing is increase flexibility. That is, when you deploy a Kubernetes platform, right? It can be any platform. Let's not talk about OpenShift now. Let's talk about Kubernetes. So when you deploy a Kubernetes platform, you should be able to create a hybrid cloud. That is, create one Kubernetes on-prem, one Kubernetes on cloud, and you should be able to get the flexibility to deploy the application either in cloud or in on-prem. So that's the flexibility. So you need to have a Kubernetes platform which is trusted, comprehensive, and consistent across hybrid cloud to achieve all the things that we have seen in the previous slide, scalability, agility, and all those stuff, right? Now, now the next thing is, so that is what is the requirement. Now, next thing is, what do you need in order to run your Kubernetes structure? The basic things. Okay. First is operating system, right? Next is Kubernetes infrastructure. That is your lifecycle management, patching of your Kubernetes and all the stuff. And then your container vulnerability and securities, where you need to patch your containers with all the latest patches, right? And then you should be able to deploy in hybrid cloud platforms like on-prem or hybrid cloud. Now here the challenge is not challenge. So if you can pick any Kubernetes, if it can support all these features, right? Again, remember these pointers, we will discuss this later, right? So I need to have a certified operating system. I need to have a certified Kubernetes platform. I need to have a certified container engine like your Docker, Cryo, you have a lot of other container runtimes, right? Those containers. And finally, your Kubernetes should be able to support hybrid cloud. Right? So when you pick any Kubernetes platform, it should satisfy all these four together, right? Now, now
Ku-
let's talk about, yeah,
Kubernetes is a open source, right?
yeah,
It's not a certified
yes,
license.
yes, yes,
Means instead of Kubernetes, do we need to treat it as an open shift?
yes, yes. So that's the answer to your question. So that's also one problem, which is support. There are other things also which I will explain.
Okay.
Okay? Now, so now we have seen what Kubernetes is, right? Now let's explore why OpenShift when compared to other Kubernetes providers, how it adds value, why you have to learn, and how companies decide that they have to go with Red Hat or they have to go with any other proprietary or free or open source Kubernetes platform. Right now, when you talk about OpenShift, Okay, so OpenShift is an enterprise-ready Kubernetes platform, right? So when I say enterprise, right, it's an enterprise or it's companies where they run production environments 24 by 7, and they need the applications to be running 24 by 7 without any latency or delay or any downtime, right? So OpenShift is an enterprise-ready Kubernetes cluster platform with full stack automated operation. This is very, very important. So when you pick up this, uh, uh, I told you, right, when I go back to my previous slide, so I said, remember these four things. I need good operating system, supported operating system. I need a supported or a full-fledged Kubernetes, then container runtime, and then hybrid cloud. Now, in OpenShift, um, it allows you to create a full stack automated operations right from infrastructure to applications. I will also cover that later, right? And OpenShift is optimized to improve developer productivity. So OpenShift is meant for developers to release their application within no time. Now, coming back to the diagram that you see on the right? Now, if you see, again, I am correlating to this four topics: operating system, Kubernetes, containers, and hybrid cloud. Okay, so let's apply these four rules to my OpenShift. Right now, if you see at the bottom, you can see the environment like physical, that is your on-prem. You can deploy OpenShift directly on bare metal servers, or you can deploy OpenShift on a virtual machine, or you can deploy it on a private cloud like such as your OpenStack. Then public clouds like major public clouds, all major public clouds are supported like AWS, Google, Azure, Alibaba, Tencent, and Oracle Cloud and IBM Cloud also. So they're all supported on a public cloud platform. And the advantage of OpenShift is you can also deploy a lightweight Kubernetes on your edge devices as well. This is basically used for your IoT devices, right? Now, so if you look at this, I have the hybrid platform, right? My Kubernetes my OpenShift can be built across hybrid platform, right? Again in terms of hybrid cloud, right? There is a concept called advanced cluster management in OpenShift. If you deploy that, you can manage multiple clusters deployed in multiple locations, and through that AKS, sorry, not AKS, advanced ACS, advanced cluster management, you can deploy applications on whatever cluster you want. So the first problem is hybrid cloud, which is solved. Second thing is Red Hat Trusted Linux operating system. So OpenShift uses an operating system called Core OS. So that is immutable operating system specifically designed for containers, right? So, and that is from Red Hat and which is fully supported by Red Hat, right? On top of operating system, we have certified Kubernetes engine, which is supported by Red Hat. On top of my Kubernetes, I have trusted content like your microservices, pipelines, CI/CD pipelines, automation, DevOps, which runs on top of the Kubernetes engine. Now, if you look at the whole stack, right, Red Hat supports your operating system, which is from Linux, from Red Hat. It also supports your legacy Kubernetes, which is supported by Red Hat, which is maintained by Red Hat. And again, Red Hat is the one of the major contributor to Kubernetes community. So one of the major contributors to Kubernetes community is Red Hat, right? So that's the reason Red Hat is a trusted Kubernetes engine. And on top of it, Red Hat has given us a lot of tools to streamline, automate your operations. So if I go back to my previous slide, see, in OpenShift, the Linux operating system, which is CoreOS, is from Red Hat. Kubernetes is from Red Hat. It has container management, which is CRI-O, which is used at the backend, and then it is fully supported on hybrid cloud. So when you pick up any Kubernetes platform, it should be able to fulfill all of these what you call all of these criteria. Now coming back to Babu's question, right? Why how Kubernetes is different from how OpenShift is different from Kubernetes. So when you pick up Kubernetes, first of all, on which operating systems you deploy, it can be Ubuntu, or as a matter of fact, it can be Red Hat also, Red Hat or Ubuntu or CentOS or any Unix-based operating system. So when you deploy Kubernetes on an enterprise for an enterprise application, who will support the operating system? That's the biggest challenge. If you have some issues with Ubuntu, who will support, right? So that's the biggest challenge. So that is ruled out. Kubernetes is from third party, which is open source. If you have any issues with Kubernetes, you have to rely on the community, right? And there is no SLA for community. Similarly, container content or runtimes. So Kubernetes also now has moved to CRI-O and Container D, but previously it was Docker. So who will support Docker? Again, you have to reach out to Docker. You have to reach out to Kubernetes. You have to reach out to Ubuntu, Ubuntu or any operating system. Similarly, hybrid cloud, you have to reach out to any particular AWS or GCP or whatever cloud platform that you are using. So there is no one vendor who can support all these four in their Kubernetes platform. So the only one which has a full-fledged support is Red Hat OpenShift. So that is the reason most of the enterprise organizations wants to prefer OpenShift. The reason is one vendor. If there is any issue, you can directly reach out to Red Hat and they will be able to help support and fix the issue. If you use any other Kubernetes, any other, whether it is open source or supported Kubernetes also, right? Your operating system is a different vendor. Your Kubernetes is a different vendor. So every part runs by its own. You have to troubleshoot by its own, or you have to talk to the specific vendor to get your issue resolved. So that is the reason most of the enterprise organizations move to OpenShift. But the reason is, now people might ask me, do you want me to learn Kubernetes first or OpenShift first? So I would prefer, because I would, in my view, personally, I feel you should take Kubernetes course or CK or whatever course it is. So that gives you a basic understanding of how Kubernetes works, how Kubernetes can be integrated with other tools. After that, you need to learn OpenShift. Why? So what OpenShift or Red Hat has done is they have taken the Kubernetes, vanilla Kubernetes, and they have added tons of services on top of Kubernetes, like your scaling up your worker nodes, enabling the worker nodes. In fact, OpenShift installation is you can install the OpenShift cluster with a single command. Single command. That's it. But unlike your in your Kubernetes platform, you have to deploy manually. You have to deploy the operating system. You have to deploy the clients. You have to install. You have to trigger the command. It takes a lot of time, lot of configuration to build the Kubernetes platform, right? So these are all the advantages that OpenShift has compared to your legacy Kubernetes platform. So I'm not saying that you don't need to know Kubernetes. As a start, you need to understand Kubernetes, how it works. Then, if you learn OpenShift, that adds value to what you have learned in the Kubernetes. Again, whatever kubectl commands that you use in Kubernetes can also be used in OpenShift. But apart from that, OpenShift has a lot of other tools that you need to learn, understand so that you can start using it in production. So that's the key difference between why you have to use Kubernetes or why people chooses OpenShift, right? So in a nutshell, Red Hat is the one vendor which provides the support for the whole stack, starting from the infrastructure operating system to your application level wise. Even you have JBoss, applications or web applications, right, which is also supported by Red Hat also. So that's the advantage of having OpenShift, uh, through which you can deploy your production applications or production, through which you can run your production environment, right? And then this is how, again, I'm not spending too much of time on this.
Is it support to only JBoss or any other applications?
You can deploy any application, any applications or containers. I'm talking about JBoss support. So JBoss is from Red Hat. So if
Yes.
you deploy JBoss on Red Hat OpenShift, even that is supported by Red Hat.
Okay.
Okay. Now again, I'm not going too depth on this architecture because it might take a lot of time for me to explain. But again, this is a, a bit advanced compared to your previous slide. So you can deploy OpenShift on any platform which runs Kubernetes, and see, if you observe, this Kubernetes is the vanilla Kubernetes. That maybe I can show my point. Eh, okay, so this is your legacy Kubernetes platform. That's it. On top of this, this is the advantage of using OpenShift. That is, you can do a on the air upgrades with a single click of a button. You can upgrade your cluster without downtime. You will have inbuilt monitoring. You will have inbuilt container registry. These services you don't see it in legacy Kubernetes platform. So because if you are using containers, container registry is mandatory, right? So of course you can use any third party registries or monitoring. I understand, but in productions you cannot use any third party. That should be taken up from the uh, you know that should have taken up from the OpenShift itself. So OpenShift has monitoring, registry, networking, router, the default router which is ingress, which you don't see it in the Kubernetes platform. And then KubeVirt, which is nothing but your this service has been used to run your virtual machines on top of Kubernetes. So KubeVirt is like your lib, right? So KubeVirt is like your libvirt. And then OLM, operating lifecycle manager, which is used to upgrade your what you call cluster operators. Again, we talk about cluster operators later. And then of course Helm is also supported to Helm is used for package manager, which we'll use to deploy applications on top of a Kubernetes platform. So these are all the extra services which you don't find it in any Kubernetes platform, if you ask me. On top of this, you have platform services like Service Mesh. You can run serverless on top of OpenShift. You can deploy CI/CD pipeline. You can have full stack chargeback, and there are a lot of applications supported, which is databases, runtimes, and there are almost like 100. Not, I think there's an old slide. There are more than 200 plus ISVs which are supported by OpenShift, and then you have other plugins which can improve the developer working culture also. So these are all the things that so you cannot see anywhere in the legacy Kubernetes. So that makes OpenShift a unique in the Kubernetes marketplace. Okay. Now, now what OpenShift can do? So if you talk about Kubernetes, right? So you, as I told you, you need to deploy cluster, you need to install the operating system, you need to configure the kernel parameters, you have to install manually, you have to deploy it manually. But in OpenShift, you don't have to do it. Just with a single command, you can, with few parameters that you can provide while installing, and then it starts deploying the entire cluster for you, right? So that is infra provisioning. You don't even have to provision infra. OpenShift itself will connect to the environment and it will provide the infrastructure. It will also download the operating system, and it will deploy the operating system as well on that particular infrastructure. Deployment, it will deploy. It can deploy on-prem, either on VMware or Nutanix or any sort of hardware environment, and then it can also support on it clouds as well, public clouds as well, right? Where you will get a unified experience. So whether you install it on on-prem, whether you would install on cloud, installation command will not change. That's it. That's the advantage of OpenShift. With single command, you can tell where to deploy. OpenShift will log in there and try to deploy the resources there, right? And then, as I said, right, hardening is one of the important thing for any environment, right? So as I said, operating system is from Red Hat, Kubernetes is from Red Hat, container platform is from Red Hat. So all the security patches, vulnerabilities, patches, everything will be given to the OpenShift by Red Hat. And when you patch the Kubernetes cluster or OpenShift cluster, right, it will also patch the underlying operating system as well. Okay, it's not that it will update only Kubernetes, it will also update your operating system at the backend. In legacy Kubernetes, the difference is when you upgrade Kubernetes, it will upgrade only Kubernetes platform. It will not upgrade your operating system. Let's say if you're installing, if you have your Kubernetes running on 21 or Ubuntu 21, and now when you're trying to upgrade your Kubernetes cluster, right, it will upgrade the Kubernetes cluster, but it will not update your Ubuntu operating system. You have to do it manually. But that's not the case with OpenShift, which again, as I said, because it's full stack automation, where when you upgrade your cluster, it will upgrade the underlying operating systems as well. Again, operation is very much streamless, like you have you can manage multiple clusters using the advanced cluster management. You have monitoring, you have alerts. In Kubernetes, by default you don't get any monitoring, you don't get any alerts by default, so you need to install some third party plugins to monitor your cluster, to set your clusters, where in OpenShift it's all inbuilt, and which are all supported by Red Hat, right? And then zero runtime upgrades. So you don't, again, this is common to both Kubernetes and OpenShift, but zero downtime upgrades is you don't need to have any downtime for your application. You can upgrade your entire cluster even in production time also. Right? And then you have vulnerability scanning, vulnerability testing for this OpenShift. That's how OpenShift adds a huge value to the organizations when they wanted to run production applications on top of you know uh, uh, you know on top of their infrastructure. It can be on-prem, it can be cloud. All right, so that's one thing. And then yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Say how this OpenShift differs when you talk about other Kubernetes platform. On the left side, you can see, as you have seen, right, operating system is from Red Hat. OpenShift Kubernetes is from Red Hat because it is supporting the Kubernetes, and it has trusted contents, and you can run this entire stack either on-prem or on Azure, AWS, and GCP. And this full stack on the left side is supported by Red Hat. You don't have to go to any vendor. One single vendor can fix your problem. But on the right side, if you see, you have AKS, EKS, GKE, and on-prem, right? If you observe, first of all, your operating system is different. Google is using Ubuntu Linux or Ubuntu Container OS. Azure is using Azure Linux or Ubuntu. Amazon is using Amazon Linux or Ubuntu. On-prem, you can use CentOS, SUSE, Ubuntu, or whatever OS you want, right? So again, if you have any issues with respect to OS, you have to reach out to OS vendors. Similarly, Kubernetes, you can use whatever version you want. And again, you have to reach out to respective cloud vendors, AKS, EKS, GKE, to get your issue resolved, because this Kubernetes on AKS, EKS, and GKE are managed by cloud vendors. But if you deploy Kubernetes on-prem, the risk is yours. You have to fix your issues. On top of this, you can choose whatever container content you want based on your requirement. So everything on the right side works in bits and pieces from different vendors, right? So that's the reason you will have a lot of challenges in terms of management, right? When you're using this one, right? So that's the reason people are moving towards, or organizations are moving towards OpenShift. And this OpenShift, you can create a hybrid platform, like one OCP cluster on-prem and one OCP cluster on any one of these clouds, AKS, EKS, and GK, right? But in terms of functionality, in terms of Kubernetes working, right, the application deployment, right, that is common across any technology. It can be OpenShift or AKS, EKS, GKS. That is common. Those kubectl commands, YAML files, those will not change. Maybe there will be a change of 10 to 20%, but mostly the way how you deploy, manage will be almost similar. But in terms of support, in terms of production environment, in terms of ease of management, OpenShift stands first compared to any other Kubernetes in the market right now, right? So that's the reason, if you pick up this OpenShift, I think this is the one of the best container platform right now in the market, which adds a lot of weightage to your skill set, right? But whatever you choose here, as I told you, Kubernetes is the base. Whether you use OpenShift or AKS, EKS, or GK, Kubernetes is the basic. Right?
This will support a DR activity.
DR activity is all in-house, so no one will support DR at the client side, right? So DR also will have another cluster on the other side, right?
Yes.
So you if that is supported, of course, okay. In OpenShift also the answer is the question to answer is yes. You can deploy another OpenShift on a DR environment, and then you can also migrate or check your DR, using the DR technologies also. That should be done.
If, for example, I have the two zones in AWS.
Yeah,
One zone is the production.
yeah, you can do
Yeah,
that.
same thing. I have to deploy the in second zone.
Yeah, yeah,
But whatever the storage is there, that the storage is coming from the S3 buckets or EKS, some
exactly. Yeah,
cluster file system or each and everything. It's a,
exactly.
it will be accessing from the zone 2 also.
Yeah, that all is not OpenShift configuration. That's all your cloud provider configuration. So if you have
Okay.
two zones at the cloud level, you have to enable the VPCs or whatever you create
Yes.
to sync the data between two zones. So if
Okay.
that is there, I will deploy two OpenShift clusters, one in production, one in DR. And when you deploy the application there, right, it will deploy the application and pick the storage from that particular zone.
Okay.
Can possible, right? Right. So that's definitely is possible.
Why means nowadays no one is thinking in a DR.
Exactly.
Only
Yeah.
they are thinking in production. Why means
Yeah.
it's in cloud environment, right? But if it will be going and we have to redeploy back. We have the backup and we can reinstall.
Yeah.
Uh, that's the reason.
Yeah. So that's the overview of how Red Hat is different from other vendors and how Red Hat is easy to manage, maintain, in terms of implementing, in terms of managing, in terms of security is pretty much straightforward. And there's only one vendor you can reach out, that is Red Hat, and they will solve all your problems. Right? Now, that is on the platform. So we have talked about infra and platform, right? But what is the benefit to developers? Right, that's very, very important, right? So that is why this platform is built for. This platform is for developers. So now, on top of OpenShift Kubernetes or Kubernetes, there are a lot of services, but in the screen you will see only few, which is 6 to 7 services, but there are hundreds of services which are available to the developers, which is DevOps tools, CI/CD pipelines. You have OpenShift pipelines. You have Argo CD integrations. You have service mesh which you can create. You have serverless architecture or serverless functions that you can run on your OpenShift. You have inbuilt monitoring. You can integrate that with any one of the monitoring tools. You have a logging, centralized logging, where you can monitor your entire cluster. And of course, OpenShift also has inbuilt container registry to save your container images as well. Okay, it's not like other Kubernetes where that will pull from your images from your other container images. These are all inbuilt in OpenShift platform. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of using Kubernetes, especially for developers. Okay, so that's my last slide on OpenShift, why we need to use, and how OpenShift is different from other Kubernetes. So the next section is certification. So before I move on, I just want to take a pause and ask if there are any questions from anyone.
Uh, no, Arvind. As of now, how could you please explain me the what is the process we need to follow? Which one we need to do first, and which one we can do the next?
Yeah. That I'll cover in the next slides. Yeah.
Arvind, I have one question. So, is it possible to have cross-cluster communication?
Cross cluster, as in like you want to deploy OpenShift on AWS and Azure and GCP.
No, let's suppose I have two clusters within. I mean, let's suppose I created two OpenShift clusters.
Hmm,
I'll take a earlier example where we had the production cluster and cluster, right?
hmm, hmm,
So let's suppose I want to have the sync between these two. So is it
hmm.
possible?
Yeah, so see, there is a simple thumb rule here. The answer is yes. Okay. Now, how it works is, see, first of all, if you want to have a DR and production or two different environments, right? You need
Mm-hmm.
to build the relevant communication between these two environments. Let's say you have one data center here and one data center one in India and one in US, one in Australia, let's say. Okay. So now you need to build the communication between these two sites, whether you create site to site VPN or whether you configure as something else. So you need to make sure the communication between these two sites should be available, or it can be on-prem and cloud also, right? Anything you can deploy a you know um, express route or whatever it is to configure the cluster, configure the environment. Now on top of it, on-prem you deploy one OpenShift, or on cloud you can deploy one shift, and they should be able to communicate. There is no restriction.
Okay.
Okay.
About
And
disaster recovery situation, how can we restore it?
Sorry, come again.
For example, when we are setting up this one in one location, something goes wrong with this location. How can we set for DR, disaster recovery?
So dear disaster recovery, right? That's where your ACM will come into picture, advanced cluster management. So when you deploy an advanced cluster management, I will add all my clusters, OpenShift clusters, into ACM, which is production, testing, development, and I can write the rules where if one of the environment goes down, it can migrate to other machine. So when I say other environment, when I say migrate, it's not like your VM migration. So remember the way how VM migrates and container migrations are different. In VM, what happens is you will sync the storage, and then you will move those VMs or only the VM templates there, and then you can power on, right? And or you have the whole storage replication, and then you can build up. But in containers, it's much more easier. The reason why I'm telling is because when you deploy containers, it's a matter of few YAML files. Let's say if you have 100 applications in your production, that is nothing but you can have 100 YAML files, right? When this production goes down, automatically your storage will be synced to the DR, right? Then only thing is you can run few scripts and install those applications on the DR, and it should not take more than maybe 3-4 minutes to build your applications because storage is available, YAML files are available. It's a matter of just running those commands to start your applications in DR. So that's the advantage of containers compared to VMs.
Okay, the network design and all we have to do before
Exactly,
this.
exactly, exactly. So that we need to do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Arvind,
Mm,
suppose in my environment,
mm,
monolithic application is running 2
yeah.
tera, 3 tera architecture. I want to suggest, or my customers are interested to migrate it to the container application like OpenShift.
True, true.
How we can suggest and how we can promote
Mm,
or whatever it's best for the business,
true.
high availability and whatever is the container. How we can decide what are the key parameters we can consider and
Mm.
share that to proceed
I got your
to
point. I said this is
migrate.
so this is a good question, Sharon. So the challenge with monolithic to migration, right? There are a lot of business decision that we need to take. The first thing is, see, why we are moving from monolithic to microservices is because we have seen the challenges, right? Easily
Yeah,
scale up, scale down, all those stuff. That
yeah.
is because when you scale up and scale down, my application know how to behave, right? When you say scale up, it will simply add more containers. When you say scale down, it will remove the containers. So my OpenShift knows how to scale up my application, how to scale down my application. That is, the application code is written in such a way that it can scale up and scale down. But if you take the same monolithic application and copy the same code into the container, right? It's not like you're running the application on a container. It's just like lift and shift, but you're not doing an application migration. So
Yeah.
when you are moving from monolithic to microservices, definitely the developers has to redesign the code, redesign the architecture to make sure, that's why I told you, right, cloud native approach. So your application should be a cloud native approach so that it can understand, your application can understand the cloud native technologies, that is nothing but Kubernetes. So now once they migrate to that environment, right, then they need to, they can easily play around with or easily scale up, scale down the applications. Without changing the code, you cannot, you can run it, but rather than running it on a container, you can better run it on a VM if you're doing if you're just doing a lift and shift. Second thing, in terms of suggestions, right? You cannot tell any customer or partner, hey, switch to OpenShift or migrate to OpenShift when they are on VMs. So you cannot say that. The reason why I am telling is OpenShift is a DevOps platform, right? What is
Yeah.
DevOps? Every day you do hundreds of application deployments, right? At least minimum 50 if it is an enterprise, 50 to 100. Now, if
Yeah.
you look at the Grab or you look at your Netflix or major Amazon, right? They release almost like 100 to 200 applications every day. So that too, we don't see any impact at the front end, right? That's all they do at the back end. So OpenShift is suggested in an environment where they do a lot of application deployments. Then yes, that's a right fit. Now, what is the steps is you deploy the application, you have to rewrite the code, then run that code on container, see the potential issues, try to tweak your codes, make sure that code is well aligned with your container platform, and then try to scale up, scale down. If that works, then your application code is ready to become a cloud native application. Okay, so these are all the things that they need to, as an architect, there will be an architect, of course. He will tell you how to migrate. At least you need to have one application architect, platform architect like OpenShift, and infra architect. So these three will sit together, see, understand the potential issues. Then they will come up with the phases how they can migrate or solve one by one. So that's how it works.
It means what is the course that is architect one?
No, architect, you don't have that kind of architect, but you have a different training, which I will show you, the
Okay.
levels
Okay.
of training. If you complete those things right, you can be at architect level to give them suggestions. Hey, this is not the right way. Because I have seen some customers, because I mostly work with a lot of customers on OpenShift. They say, like, because they don't know how OpenShift works, and the reason they say, hey, I wanted to go to OpenShift. Then I'll ask questions, hey, what's your requirements, what's your need? Then I will say, hey, okay, this is not the right fit for you. So what they want
Yeah.
is they want to move out of VMs. Then I'll ask them how many deployments you do, how many developers you have, do you have that no do you have that skill set to run your application on container? They say no, we don't have. Then it's not the right fit. So that's that experience you get it when you do all this learnings. So actually OpenShift is a vast topic by itself, but
Yeah.
if
Right.
you do that right, it's a vast topic, very very vast topic. And if you
Yeah.
do
Right.
that right, if you learn this right, this will be there. You can easily manage this for another 1 to 2 decades. That's the
Yes.
technology
Right.
which will last for another 2 to 3. Again, as I know, someone has told me they have done OpenShift in 3 version, right? So
Yeah.
even I did version 3, which is long back. And the way they are aggressively improving the OpenShift, even minor version has lot of features, lot of enhancements. So
Right.
2 years back, OpenShift is different, and now the OpenShift is different. See how the
Yeah.
community is working, how Red Hat is working to enhance this. So another 1 year, if you will have a full-fledged cluster, where you have everything inbuilt in OpenShift. So that's how, that's why it's the right time for us to explore, learn, OpenShift.
Yeah, I have one more question. Suppose, what is the best practices and generally general talk, how we are recommended to suppose some customers or some environment we want to monolithic to migrate it to it's a go and fresh re-architect completely and lift and shift kind of, which is the best suit and fit for
Actually,
that.
actually, we have to take this offline because I need 1 hour to explain that.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so probably you can drop me a note to Srilata. I can
Okay.
give you some guidelines on
Okay.
how we can propose this, and we can do that. Only in the
Yeah, sure.
interest of time, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So that's the reason. So let's cover this, and then you can ping Srilata anytime, and
yeah,
then I can connect with you, and we can discuss the architecture. Okay.
yeah, sure.
Okay.
I have one final question, if
Mm,
you all permit me.
yeah.
Yeah, suppose my environment is running an OpenShift environment, like SDA application, SAP Data Intelligence kind of large, heavy loaded applications.
Mm,
I have planned to migrate it to, for example, Azure ACP, Azure Container Platform.
mm, mm.
Uh, 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 is this the best practices, or is it recommended? How it will be, your suggestion, and what is exactly?
First of all, SAP is not supported on containers as of now.
No, we are in my environment. SDA, SAP Data Intelligence, is running top on OpenShift.
OpenShift, right? So, but all the services are not still supported on OpenShift as of now, as far as I know. So,
HANA is the database, one of the container as well, and
database.
other, yeah, that is OpenShift 4.6,
No.
still 8 is running.
But when you look at other SAP services, like you have a lot of other services, right, which
Yeah,
are
yeah.
still they are in the process of certifying them on OpenShift. So
Okay.
if they are certified, you need to talk to these two vendors, Red Hat and SAP, to see whether they are supported on OpenShift. Then they have their own recommendations of migration and implementation. So those are the best practices that you need to follow from SAP to move
Yeah,
or
yeah,
migrate or install.
yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
It's yeah already certified. Then only our customers we are
exactly.
supporting and
Hmm,
running.
hmm,
I believe, and it's a SAP SDI 3X and 4X. It's running on that
hmm,
SAP 4X,
hmm,
OCP 4X. It's previously we are using Data Hub.
hmm,
That is also SAP product, and now migrated to the like how 3 to 4 OCP. We are migrating like the Data Hub 3 to. They are migrating. OC, OpenShift container,
hmm.
SDI application, they migrating
Okay.
application teams.
Okay.
Okay. My question is, whatever application, not only
Hmm,
SDA,
hmm.
SAP, is it best practices if it is good, any additional features, or is it best practices to migrate it to on-prem to, and otherwise one cluster we can keep, and other production or either non-production we can keep, and on-prem, and other environment we can similar
So,
we can keep that, and
yeah, as a best
also kind
practices,
of.
so there is no thumb rule that you have to follow these best practices. Not like your hardening CAs. There are no hard rules. Okay,
Mhm,
so
mhm,
it changed from environment to environment, organization to organization. Now, some applications I have seen few customers they had some challenges migrating to containers.
mhm,
So in that scenarios, they kept a legacy VMs
mhm.
and run their applications on VMs because those third-party softwares are not ready for containers yet.
No,
So that
already environment is there in on-prem
hmm,
OpenShift
hmm.
that is planning to migrate it to cloud platform to
So if you
some.
want to migrate from OpenShift on-prem to cloud, there is no best practice. It's easy because you only data needs to be synced into a cloud storage. Once it is synced, you will have your own YAML files in your Git repository or repository, right? You
Mhm.
use the same code and deploy the applications on containers on cloud.
Okay.
So once you have GitHub or GitLab or whatever repository, your files will be there, your storage will be synced, and then immediately you can create environment on the production as well. Again, if you have ACM, which is advanced cluster management, that can manage multiple clusters together, then you can easily migrate the on-prem container to cloud container on OpenShift
Okay.
with ACM.
With ACM.
Hmm.
ACM is the one of the best practices
It's
to
like your cluster
migrations.
management. Yeah, cluster management.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no
Aravind.
problem. So yeah, so let's go to the final topic for today, which is certification. I know a lot of people are waiting for this. So so again, when it comes to certification, right? Again, there are a lot of certifications that are available, but the core focus is the one which you are seeing on the screen. There are two. I mean, there are not two. There are 3 to 4 different streams. Admin stream, advanced admin stream, developer stream in terms of certification. Okay, so if you are starting your journey on OpenShift, the preferred course would be D080808 080. If I am not wrong, this is a free course, but just double confirm with Sailata. I think this is free of cost, which you can explore, where they will give you an overview of what container is, how container works, what Kubernetes is, and basic stuff. And
Yeah,
then,
that's true.
yeah,
80 is free of cost.
free of cost, yeah. And then the next one is 180, which where in this course they'll talk about basic container management, and then half of the course will be on containers and half of the course will be on Kubernetes, and not Kubernetes, OpenShift, which also covers a basic administration of OpenShift platform. So again, uh, 180 is also kind of a basic course that you will at least come to know what container is and how containers are run on top of OpenShift platform. And the next is 280, which is very popular, and a lot of people have already done this. This is where you will learn what you call how to deploy application, manage applications, manage the storage, create storage on the I will there is a separate data sheets which I will show you later after this slide, where you can identify what topics are covered in 280, right? And the topic for today is 380. This is where we are focusing now, where we are starting training on D380 starting from next month. And then where in this OpenShift, you will see how to integrate OpenShift with enterprise authentication, advanced storage configurations, advanced cluster management, how you can manage your environments. All those things will be covered in 380, right? So when you are starting your career on OpenShift, the preferred one is 080, 180, 280, and 380. That should be the path. And this, when you have this all four together, right? I think at an admin level, I think you are one of the preferred person to be hired in any companies, because these are all highly certified skill set available for OpenShift especially, right? And if you want to do more on OpenShift, then there is a course called 480, D0480, which will help you understand how this advanced cluster management, which is called ACM, works, how you can manage multiple cluster, how you can spin up the cluster using ACM. All these things will be covered in the ACM and 480 topic. And then, of course, storage is very, very important, right? You can also see D0370, which is nothing but OpenShift Data Foundation, which will be a core data platform backend for your container platform. So you will understand how to create storage, how to sync up the storage, and all those stuff using ODF. We call it as ODF, OpenShift Data Foundation. So you will explore ODF on 370, and then of course 370 is an exam, and you have 316, that is managing your virtual machines on OpenShift platform. Because now the issue with Broadcom and VMware, right? Most of the companies are trying to explore this option, running virtual machines on containers, which is nothing but on top of your OpenShift platform. So this is one of the thing. So these are some of the topics that you can explore and start learning. So preferably 080, 180, 280, 380, this should be the preferred one. Once you're done with 380, then you can explore 480 or 316 or 370 based on the requirement. Right? But if you can do the certificates mentioned on the left side, right, that should be good enough to get a decent amount of knowledge on OpenShift platform. Okay, so I can share these documents later, these documents. So I have data sheets, for every course, 180, 280, and 380. So if you look at 180, right, you will see managing OpenShift cluster, troubleshooting networking, right, and connecting Kubernetes clusters and workloads, configuring Kubernetes workloads for high availability, right, and managing the container images settings on the Kubernetes platform. So these are all covered in the 180, training, right? And coming part to 280, we have deploying package applications, authentication and authorization, like how you can give RBAC permissions, protecting your traffic, creating network traffic policies, and all those stuff. And then managing the application using resource manifests, creating manifests, and how to run those manifests on cluster, how to enable developer services, self-service application projects, and then how to update your Kubernetes cluster or OpenShift cluster or operators on uh, you know uh, in this particular 280 course. So 380 course is where we talk about installing, deploying the operators on Kubernetes, implementing GitOps, right, on OpenShift GitOps operator, integrating with OpenShift with enterprise authentication like IDM. Okay, IDM is the kind of an AD from Red Hat, and query, visualize cluster-wide logs, metrics, and understand how your cluster is behaving. Backup and restore application using data with APIs. That's one thing that we'll cover in 380. And then, of course, how to manage your machines, increase node, decrease nodes, create machine pools. All these things will be covered in 380. So if you look at this, right, 180 is the basic stuff where we talk about understand how Kubernetes works. Second, 280 is where you talk about how to manage cluster at intermediate level, and 380 is where you will learn how to manage, applications as well as infra as well, like expanding your clusters and managing them, through enterprise authentication. So that's the difference between all these three courses. And next month, anyways, we are teaching 180 to 80 in Amrita, and from the next month, I think from second week of March, we are planning for D0380 course as well, right? So if you guys are already 280 certified, then I would recommend you to go through these contents first, and then if you are willing to join, you can join the batch of 380, and then where I will train you on the concepts on 380. And if you are starting your journey, then definitely I'm also the instructor for all these courses, so I can cover 180, then 280, and then you can pick up 380 as well. But when you're starting from the beginning, right, it's a time consuming process. So you need to spend a lot of time in learning, understanding these technologies, and practice is very, very important. That you guys all know, right? So Linux is, you need to put some effort in, hands-on effort in learning this technology, right? So for the guys who are already 280 certified, you can, if you're interested, you can register for 380. And for the new guys, you can start exploring your training on 180, and then you can plan that accordingly, right? I can share this documents. I send Silata, and she can share this documents. I think these are all readily available in the internet. You can find out. So if not, I can share this documents. Okay. So yeah, that's all I have. Any questions, before we wind up?